People who have iPhones in prison, how'd you sneak it in? I got sent to juvie when I was 16 for stealing cars, so naturally everyone assumed I was stupid. I got sentenced to 8 months in this building that was surrounded by razor wire, where they tried to reform teenage screw-ups like me through strict schedules and group therapy. I didn't care about that, but what was really getting to me was the fact that we weren't allowed to have any phones. They searched us constantly and had metal detectors at every checkpoint. If they caught you with a phone, you got 30 days in solitary. But after 2 months of no contact with my girlfriend, I didn't care. I decided to find a way to get one in. There was this guard named Officer Delgado who worked the evening shift. He was younger than the other guards and always talked about technology and video games. While the older guards treated us like criminals, he actually seemed to care about rehabilitation. He'd bring in gaming magazines sometimes and let us look at them during rec time. I started small by asking him questions about the newest phones whenever he walked by. What games did he play on his phone, and which carrier had the best data plans? He'd always remind me that phones weren't allowed, but he'd still answer my questions. After a few weeks, he started showing me pictures of new tech releases on his own phone through the bars. One day, Delgado mentioned his nephew was turning 13, and he didn't know what to get him. I suggested some games I'd heard about from other kids, and he seemed grateful for the advice. The next week, he told me his nephew loved the gift. That's when I knew I had an opening. I told Delgado about this coding course I'd started before getting locked up, how I was teaching myself Python and JavaScript through online tutorials, how being in here meant falling behind while technology kept advancing. I could see him feeling bad for me as I talked about missing out on my future. Is there any way I can keep learning? I asked one evening when he was doing rounds. He looked uncomfortable and said phones were forbidden for good reasons, but I kept pushing gently. I wasn't asking to text or call anyone, just to access educational apps, maybe during the hour of personal time when we were locked in our cells anyway. Delgado shot down the idea immediately, but I could tell he was thinking about it. Over the next month, I kept mentioning programming and showing him code I'd written from memory on paper. I talked about kids my age already working at tech companies while I was rotting away, and that the only reason I stole the car was to make money for a better PC. I made sure other guards heard me asking about library books on coding. Then Delgado's phone broke. He mentioned it during rounds and seemed stressed about the repair cost. That's when I made my move. I told him I'd learned phone repair from YouTube videos and might be able to fix it. He laughed at first, but I described exactly what was probably wrong based on his symptoms. He was impressed enough to keep talking. If I could get my hands on some tools, I could probably save you $200, I said casually. He knew I meant his phone would have to come into the facility. He also knew how much guards made and that $200 mattered. I watched him wrestle with the decision for days. Finally, Delgado agreed to let me look at his phone during a night shift when the supervisor was gone. He brought it to my cell after lights out along with a basic toolkit. His screen was shattered and the charging port was loose. Easy fixes I'd done dozens of times in my uncle's repair shop. While I worked on his phone, I installed something extra, a remote access app that would let me control a second device from his phone. I'd learned about it from another kid who'd gotten caught with contraband. The app was invisible unless you knew where to look. Delgado was so happy when his phone worked again that he didn't question anything. 2 weeks later, Delgado brought in an old smartphone for me. He said it was his backup device with no SIM card, just Wi-Fi capability. He'd downloaded some coding apps and educational content, 1 hour each night during cell time only. If anyone found out, we'd both be screwed. I agreed to every condition while hiding my excitement. What Delgado didn't know was that his repair shop visit had given me everything I needed. Through the remote access app on his phone, I could bounce my connection through his device to the internet. Suddenly, I had access to everything, including encrypted messaging apps that looked like calculators. I kept my promise about learning to code because I actually did want that skill. But I also got to text my girlfriend every night, and she'd send me things to keep me occupied at night, if you know what I mean. I was careful never to post anything or do something that would get traced back. Delgado never suspected because I made sure to show him my coding progress regularly. The setup worked perfectly for 3 months until another kid got caught with a real phone and they did a facility-wide lockdown. Delgado quietly took back the device and we never spoke about it again. But those 3 months of talking to my girl kept me sane. My bad, Mr. Delgado.